All right, everybody, good afternoon and welcome to this week's Corn Belt Umpires Association Zoom Lunch Clinic. I am privileged to be joined by Chad Eichens, who is the coordinator of umpires for the Northern Sun, the Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, the Upper Midwest Athletic Conference. And Chad, are you still the umpire in chief for the Minnesota State Amateur Tournament?
No, we've passed that off to somebody else
Okay.
in our group, but yeah, I've worked it several times for sure. Yeah.
So what that translates to is Chad has a lot of decisions to make at the middle point and towards the end of the year as far as postseason assignments work. And as umpires, we all have a desire to be a part of the last crew on the field for the season. The players want to be the last ones playing. We want to be the last ones working. And so in 8 days, or April 1st, the applications for the South Dakota state tournaments for Legion and amateur baseball are due. And so Connor, who is currently on the field right now, wanted to have a discussion about what goes into what characteristics a good postseason umpire has, what and things like that. So Chad was more than gracious to take a couple minutes out of his day, and especially with the weather, time is at a premium. So thank you again, Chad. So I guess I'll kind of give you just a little bit of a rundown, just so everybody knows. So the general rule in South Dakota is you got to be an umpire for 3 years in the state. For the high school tournament, you have to be a resident of the state. And for Legion, I don't believe they have that requirement. But 3 years, you go to the annual meeting, and then you apply, and you are selected by a committee, and then of umpires, and then the state governing body goes from the list that the state provides. That's kind of the rundown of how stuff works here in South Dakota. So when you get names from whoever, whether it be coaches, umpires that you trust, you get those umpires' names on a list. What qualities are you looking for in those umpires that you're going to consider to move forward into postseason work?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jacob. It's my pleasure to be here. I think what I'm going to share with you would really apply to any level of baseball, just probably at a certain, maybe at a different depth at the high school level versus the college level, or American Legion, or whatever you happen to be striving for. It's kind of a dance, if you will. There's not a particular science or a checklist that you kind of go down that says, okay, if this person does A, B, and C, they're in, because there's a lot of different nuances that go into it. And so some of these things you control as an official, and there's other things that you really don't control. And that can be maybe a blessing. It can also be a bit of a curse as well. So I think, right out of the gate, you have to get balls and strikes right. You have to get safes and outs correct. You have to know the rules. I mean, that's like bare minimum. When I go out, at least at the collegiate level, and I see umpires and they have obvious misses behind the plate, that pretty much knocks you out of postseason right there. You have to get those things correct. And that also includes working with your partners on getting the call right, which is an emphasis of the NCAA. There are situations where 2-man officiating, even 3-man officiating, you may not have the best angle and your partners have a better look. So being able to use all the tools to make sure you're getting the call right is important. Being able to have good, solid rules knowledge and to be able to use the language in the rule book is important, because you are very defensible when you can quote the rules verbatim, when you can use that certain language. So I would really encourage you to kind of know some of those key phrases. I thought this would be easy to talk about, but it is really difficult because there's so many different things. I thought I'll just put together this outline. It'll be great. Now, again, some of the things that go into postseason, again, don't just happen on the field. It's also what happens off the field. And again, some of these things you control, some of them you don't control. It's professionalism. You know, how do you act when you're on the field? How do you interact with the AD's secretary? How do you interact or not interact with the fans, with people in the parking lot? Are you professional with your partners? Are you trying to raise them up? What kind of a locker room person are you? You know, you can't be standoffish. You can't be big time. If I'm going to send you somewhere for 3, 4, 5 days, we all got to get along. And there are times when that personality conflicts prevents people from advancing in postseason. The last thing I want to happen is something off the field, personality conflicts affecting what's happening on the field. So, you know, being a good person, a good teammate to your crew is important. Certainly the ability to handle people and handle situations is important. Some people seem to have a knack for that, and other people struggle with that a little bit, and that it takes practice, you know. But the ability to diffuse a situation instead of inflaming it is important, because you know, some of the feedback I get from different conferences is they don't want to see that conflict. They want umpires to be calm and in control, and to be able to handle situations. Off
So
the field
Chad,
stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna interrupt you, and before we really get to the off field stuff, because I think we can both agree that most umpires, where they get into trouble is the off field stuff, as opposed to the on field stuff. But throughout my umpiring career, I guess one thing, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I remember I was sitting in one of the Northwest meetings, and someone, I think it was Terry who said it, but the fastest way to move up, whether it be from 13U to 14U, or from, you know, working JV to varsity, or within college, is to enforce the rules as written. So if we put this into a college context, enforcing the 20-second action clock, enforcing the sportsmanship initiative. If we're looking at a high school, and I realize that the jewelry rule is now gone, but enforcing the jewelry rule, or enforcing the protective equipment rule for catchers. Would you agree with that as well?
Yeah, you know, as an official, and I think this is true for any sport, it's not your job to pick and choose what you're going to enforce. You know, there's an art to being able to enforce it, and enforce it at the correct times and the correct ways. But yeah, it's your job to enforce the rules, and you know, sometimes you're the bad guy for doing something that, you know, the coach should have told them to take off their necklace. You know, you just happen to be the one to deliver the message. But yeah, enforce the rules. Yep, and that's very clear from the NCAA. Very clear. They want that to be consistent. Off the field, you know, Jacob, you just mentioned a good way to go up the ladder. A good way to go down the ladder is to get in trouble off the field. And I've got all kinds of stories. about people getting in trouble off the field, whether it's, drinking too much the night before, not being able to work the next day, hitting on the bartender, doing things on campus, asking for favors of people that are inappropriate. Again, it kind of comes down to professionalism. You're there to do a job, do your job, get in, get out, and don't draw attention to yourself. It's tough enough to do this on the field. Don't allow those off the field things to interfere with your success. There's some other little kind of nuances here, and some of these again, maybe you don't control, but your physical fitness comes into play. You can see this at the professional level, right? If you watch Major League Baseball, these umpires have kind of transformed from this older, hands in your pocket, maybe a little bit overweight, maybe a lot overweight, into very slim cut, athletic looking guys. And like it or not, your look and your physical appearance plays a role in how people perceive you. So I would encourage you to be physically fit, stay active, make sure you can move around. That's important. Yeah, you have to look the part. Your location, where you live, geography plays a role. We want to get the best people involved in the postseason, and I'm talking from the college perspective here. But geography does play a little bit of a role, because we have a certain pool of umpires around the upper Midwest, and I know some of the guys that I would like to use maybe get used in NAIA in different locations. I know that Matt Moore will take some guys and use them in Wisconsin and Iowa. So we try to keep people a little bit close to home if we can. But again, that's one of those things that's maybe a little bit outside of your control. The actual number of umpires that are eligible for postseason, again, you don't control that. You control what you control. But I know that I start with about a list of close to 40 guys every year that I'm kind of keeping my eye on. I have, let's see, 6, 12, I think room for 20 approximately in the conferences that I cover. So that list can get whittled down pretty quickly. Some of the guys are at different stages of postseason. So I think right now I've got 8 people that I deal with that will be going beyond a conference tournament. They'll be either regional and or super regional officials at this point. So I know I'm going to plug those guys in right away to a conference tournament. So sometimes it's just a numbers game. The NCAA did officials a great favor when they instituted the super regionals. That's just more opportunities for officials to get involved. Your age has something to do with whether or not you may be selected. And it's not that you're X number of years old. It's what happens as you age, right? I know I can't run as fast at 48 as I did at 38, and certainly not as fast as I was at 28. Some guys are in the system, they're progressing, they're maybe postseason umpires year after year, but age and time catches up with you. Again, a good reason to hit the treadmill during the off season and make sure your nutrition is being taken care of. Let's see, what else do I have on my sticky notes here? This happens every year too. Guys run into issues with their jobs. We all have real jobs, and sometimes they can't get away for 3, 4, 5 days, and that happens. I have people every year that tell me, hey, I've got grandma's 90th birthday party. She's not going to live much longer. I've got a guy this year who I was going to use. He's got to get a kid graduating from college on a conference tournament weekend. life happens, and that's important that you take advantage of that. That should come before postseason. So job and home responsibilities come into play as well. And then this one's probably a little bit more, maybe more at the high school level, some of the things that I've seen at the high school level. But speaking for Minnesota, I know that they want to get more officials involved in postseason opportunities. So in Minnesota, I think the rule is you can do the high school tournament 3 years in a row, and then no matter how good you are, you're out. You got to take a break so they can get more people involved. Again, in Minnesota, the high school league is very good about selecting people from different areas of the state so that they can encourage officiating and give people an opportunity. And opportunities is something that I look at as well, especially when it comes to maybe leadership roles. So, kind of thinking in my mind, who's kind of the next person up, who's going to climb the ladder. How can I give them some additional responsibility, maybe as an assistant crew chief or something like that? And again, I think that's a good way to build diversity into your pool and a good way to build some leadership. So I'm going to pause right there. Does anybody have questions for me?
I haven't seen anything in the chat, or no one's unmuting, but yeah, given those small opportunities is I think a really good way to test umpires and kind of see where they're at. I know there's times where Mark will say, "Hey, let so and so kind of run the show tonight, just and let me know how they do." Um, when I first broke into the GPAC, I was doing a lot of JV or reserve games, and I would be the assigned crew chief on those, so I'd be responsible for doing all the crew chief duties that were expected. And it was a good learning opportunity for me personally. And yeah, the giving people opportunities to see how they can do with a little bit of leadership is a really good way to determine where they're at as an umpire.
Yeah, for sure. And again, you know, as officials, we can't be sharks. We can't be eating our young. We need to find ways to grow those younger officials and provide them opportunities and give them a little bit of leadership and a sense of ownership in what they're doing.
So I'm gonna just add something here. If you feel, I guess I'll phrase it as a question, you Chad, because I had this conversation with an umpire yesterday, and I don't handle assignments. I handle the training and the mentorship side within our association. But I was talking to an umpire, and this umpire was really frustrated with their game assignments. They didn't feel like they were getting the assignments that they could work from a quality standpoint, from a quantity standpoint. And I had a conversation with them, and I said, well, here are three things that I have observed that I think you need to work on. How best would, if you're this umpire and you want to go talk to the coordinator or your assigner, how would you best approach that conversation of with the simple question of what do I need to do to better my assignments?
I would say pick up the phone. Have a face-to-face or person-to-person conversation with your assigner. It does you no good to sit around and bitch to your partner after the game when they don't control that. The other thing that I would say is when you do pick up the phone, when you do get some feedback from your partner or an observer, take it to heart. They're not making stuff up. They're giving you some honest feedback, which is what they should be doing. So if you've given this umpire 3 things that you've noticed, then as an official, if you truly want to get better, you need to work on those things, and take some time. And then, maybe a month, maybe 2 months from now, you work again with that umpire, Jacob, and, have I improved? You have to ask yourself that question. Have I improved? And again, be willing to get some pretty honest and open feedback.
Absolutely. And I had another situation with another one of the, with someone who's actually on my mentee list. And he's like, I didn't get any college games in X conference. Why? Like, what is it? Why do you think? And I had said, I have a couple thoughts, but I don't know. And he's like, I don't have a good enough, I don't feel like I have a good enough relationship with such and such coordinator to go and ask. And so like, I reached out to him. I just said, hey, so-and-so is trying to get better. They asked me, here's what I think. Is there something that I'm missing that I can help this umpire with? And so if you don't, I think if you don't feel like you have a good enough relationship, find someone who's willing to mentor you. But then if you really don't feel like you have a good enough relationship to go and ask that question, get some feedback from your mentor and see if your mentor can, get additional things from that assigner, coordinator, whoever.
Mm-hmm. I also think, Jacob, I'll build on that, it's like, how do you ask the question of the assigner or the coordinator, right? It's not, why am I not getting this? Why am I not getting that? Poor me. It's, what can I do to improve? That should be the question. That should be the mindset. I've had those conversations at all different levels of umpiring. And I never try to keep people down. I'm always trying to help people and build them up. I'm not telling you that you need to lose 10 pounds because I just want to be a prick. It's because I think that, and I think that will help you improve. You need to be better in the rule book. You need to do those things. I'm not telling you that to be a jerk or to push you down or to force you out. That's what you need to do to get better.
Absolutely. Chad, is there anything else that really comes to your mind as far as, what makes good postseason umpire, how we can help umpires move up, kind of things like that?
I would say if you're the person looking to move up, just keep working on it. Understand what you control. Understand that there are some things that you don't control. But those things that you do control, make sure that you're doing them well. The other thing that I would say is, I think we all have a responsibility to help each other out. So being able to have a good post-game breakdown with your partner on what went well, what didn't go so well, what can we do better next time, and trying to implement those things. Jacob, you touched a little bit about being a mentor to younger officials. All those things add up, and I think collectively they make us much stronger officials.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions for Chad here before we move on or do anything? Or I got videos that we can watch and stuff like that just to spend 10 minutes on. But if we have questions, please feel free to ask.
I'm not hearing anything, so
I'm not either.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So guys, thanks for everything you do. We really appreciate it across the board at every single level. Weather is going to be a struggle. I don't know what it's like out in your area, Jacob. But I'm getting reports from coaches that still have 4 feet of snow on the fields, along the fences, the shaded areas. I just got a text from Blanche out in Marshall. He doesn't think he's going to play a home game before May.
That's what he said at the plate meeting
Yep. So,
on Sunday.
keep your availability up to date. Be flexible. Your assigner will love you for it.
Chad, there's a question in the chat about if there's what clinics you're gonna be at, and I don't know. Are you planning on going back to Omaha this fall?
Yeah, Sean has promised me a spot in Omaha at his one of his events that he runs. So I'm probably gonna take advantage of that if it fits into my schedule. I have never been invited to the Kansas City, the Indy thing that the CBUA puts on. If I do get an invitation there, I will certainly do that. If there are other little clinics or showcases that I can attend, I know I've done one up in Fargo in the past, where I can see some guys, work over the course of the weekend. I do try to do those things.
Awesome. And if you are able to get me those as well, I can pass those along to other people who are looking to move up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah,
I'll
there's
also say
there's
this.
snow up
I
to
watch
the,
a lot
go
of
ahead.
I watch a lot of college baseball games on video now, whether it's Division II or Division III. Some of it's not great video, but I can kind of get a sense of what's happening, how guys are doing. So if you know that there is a game that's being videotaped, live streamed, shoot me a note, and I can certainly try to go back and watch it or watch it live.
Absolutely. And Chad, I can send this to you, but I have gone in and I've started clipping. I had we had a 20-second action clock this weekend. We had a weird pickoff where I had a punch out. We had a when I was working the plate, I had a bunt right in front of home plate, and I had a whole bunch of stuff pop up on me. So like I go back in and grab those videos. And back to your point earlier about just working on getting better, using the videos. If you got games that are live streamed, send me videos. I'm more than willing to give you my honest feedback. I have a library of videos that I've now officially created. I send videos out to guys whose opinions I really trust almost weekly. And so doing the video stuff. If you got games that are live stream, go back and watch them. Let somebody know, hey, I'm working a live stream game. I was prepping for a class yesterday, and one of my mentees was working an NAIA game, and I just had the game up on my laptop, and I was just prepping for class. So there's technology is great, and we're able to watch videos and help try to provide some feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else for Chad? Otherwise, I'm going to let him get back to his day. Chad, I really appreciate you coming on and having this conversation with us. I think this was a really beneficial conversation for everybody. So thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Yep, I appreciate it. Anytime, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, did you get a text message from me? All right. I'm going to stop the recording for now. Thank you guys for attending today. I'm just going to stop the recording, then we'll discuss further some other stuff.